Welcome to the SpaHive Podcast. We're your hosts, Julie Pankey
and MaryAnn, spa leaders, business strategists, and business besties who are pulling back the curtain on what it actually takes to grow a business and a life you don't secretly want to escape from.
This is where leadership meets honesty, where revenue meets relationships, and where we talk about the things no one puts on Instagram.
So, if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, or a high achiever who's building something meaningful, but also navigating team dynamics, burnout, boundaries, and big goals, you're in the right place.
No highlight reels, no sugarcoating, just real conversations, practical strategy, and a little laughter along the way. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to the SpaHive Podcast. I'm here with my business bestie this morning, MaryAnn, and if you don't know me, I'm Julie Pankey. Good morning, MaryAnn.
Good morning, Julie Pankey. How are you?
I'm good today. Very good. Although I feel like I could use a pedicure, so I've got to fit that into my schedule this week.
Or have you drank your herbs yet this morning?
I have them right here.
All right, here we go.
So I did my herbs extra hot this morning, so while I got ready and had time to cool down so that I can drink them up while we're talking and be ready to start my day. However,
Awesome.
It's literally been like 10 days of rain and 2 days of sun.
You had 10 days of rain? My goodness, that's a lot.
10 days of like cloudy and rain, not straight up rain.
Well, it's still mudding season, right?
It's April showers bring May flowers.
April. Yep, we're in April. So perfect. You're dead on, April showers. It is hot here. It's going to be 90 degrees today.
So weird.
So I better get my bikini out and have a beach party because it's going to be a scorcher.
Today's a great day to try your bum sunbathing. Only 30 seconds a day. Did you see? I posted on my Instagram story a guy bum sunbathing.
No, I must have missed that one.
Well, it was a few days ago, so it's gone. Yep, he talks all about it, all about the importance of doing this. And he was in the position. It was fantastic. Really fantastic.
Boy.
I'm pretty sure I shared it with you too on Instagram. So there's proof, folks, that MaryAnn doesn't read the messages that I sent her.
I read the text messages.
Yeah, but what about the LinkedIn links that you send me? I look at.
You do?
Yes. And
Thank you.
And sometimes I put a thumbs up or a heart. But I also put a link to our podcast in that story because...
Good job, Julie Pankey.
We talked about this trend.
Look at you promoting us.
I know. So, all right. So this podcast feels super important, especially right now. Every podcast is super important, especially right now. So because I think somewhere along the way, especially as business owners, we start believing that growth comes from doing more in our businesses. So more online, more marketing, more strategy. You know, I love the word strategy. Although I have recovered from that over the years, I feel like, that what we can do doing more like within the four walls of our business. And yeah, all of that matters, right? I mean, we have to do more, and we have to, have a strategy for growth and success. But what if one of the most important things you could do for your business is just getting outside of your building? Like actually leave the four walls of what you think is the most important space, the most important place for you to focus your time, and go be a real human in your community.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's always room for community engagement, but I think this goes beyond, our business owners. I feel like this is a really great message, especially for now in today's just environment, for you as well, for you as a person, right? Getting out in your community is, I think, more important now than ever. It kind of, well, I definitely think it humbles you as well as expands, your own little bubble, right? You realize you're not just the only person and the world does not revolve around you.
It doesn't.
No, ma'am. No, it doesn't.
I mean,
Nice
I
try.
I think that, getting into your community is more than, a nice to do. Like, it'd be really nice if I could, and a lot of times people make excuses, right? Like, if I had the time and I really wish that I could. But I also believe, and, I always talk about soul care, right?
Right.
And things that I try to focus on that I don't have time to do a lot of times, but I focus on them and put them on my 90-day plan because I know it's a part of my soul care and that, it's a healing experience when you do things, whether as a human or, as a leader, um, that takes care of, you and others.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a study out of Mayo Clinic that says volunteering improves our sense of purpose, confidence, and overall mental health, which isn't a surprise, right? That's not a surprise.
Uh-huh.
So purpose doesn't always come from doing more. Comes to it comes from feeling. And I feel like as we go through seasons in our lives, right, there's times where we're more involved in our community, less involved in our community. And that's okay. I think that's okay. But I do think, when we look back at the times where we're more involved, at least me personally, I can say, oh, I did feel a little bit more connected and whole as a person. So, Julie,
Right.
what's something like in your personal life that you are doing with your community now?
Nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I mean, I'm always doing something in my community.
Yeah.
Um, but like right now I'm working on a memorial garden at our primary school
Mm-hmm.
um in the town. So myself and a few other people are working on um a memorial garden for a few teachers. One teacher was killed in a car accident about 6 years ago, and another, the kindergarten teacher, tragically died in a fire over this last year. So, and then also there's people that support the school that have passed and they've requested to like plant a bush or something.
Mm-hmm.
So we're creating or revising and revamping a community garden for that purpose, and then starting a um garden club growing monarch butterflies in the fall. So that's one thing. Yeah. How about
You're
you?
going to grow monarch butterflies?
Yes.
Do you have to buy like I guess the caterpillars?
No, I think so this is not my strength. One of the other people has done this multiple times. So I'm not 100% sure. I think by the larvae, like the eggs,
Yeah.
I think.
Huh.
That then grow into the caterpillars, that then grow into the butterflies, I think.
Interesting.
Don't
Because
take my word for it. This master gardener is brand new.
isn't there like a chrysalis?
Well,
Isn't
yeah,
that the
that comes
thing
after.
that comes after the larvae?
they're born first.
I just remember
They
Hungry Caterpillar, that book. Yeah, and I guess it was larvae, and then he was a caterpillar, and then he ate everything, and then he made himself a chrysalis, and then he turned into a
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens. I mean, you like
perfect.
collect the eggs, and whether you buy the eggs or collect the eggs naturally, and then they grow into a caterpillar, and then they eat, chomp 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 on the milkweed,
Uh-huh.
and then they go into their little chrysalis. They
The cocoon, their thingy they make.
Yes, and then they emerge a beautiful butterfly.
You know what? Wouldn't that be a thing if someone took your egg from somewhere else and then put it somewhere else, and then you were born and you were like, wait, where am I?
Yeah, but you wouldn't know because you were an egg.
I don't know. I feel like PETA's gonna come after you. You better be careful.
No. So yeah,
Wait, I think we talked about them with bugs before. Maybe they don't do bugs.
maybe. But I mean, I had monarchs last year, and I mean we have a lot of monarchs, but we went to a native plant sale by the Audubon Society. We bought a bunch of milkweed. And then the milkweed will continue to spread. And so
Yeah.
we planted it like along our stone wall and like a slope in our yard. Just from those, like, I don't know, I think we got maybe like 8 plants.
Yeah.
Just from those, I was like, what's this stuff on these plants? And Gary's like, I don't know. It might be like monarch eggs. And so we waited, and the next thing you knew, and I swear it was like the next time we looked, we had the monarch caterpillars, and there had to have been like 15 of them.
Oh boy.
And they were munching all the leaves. So then I don't know if they got enough food because, they were spindly, brand new plants. And then I never felt like I saw the chrysalis. Like, I didn't go looking for them. Like, I didn't know where they would be, but I didn't see them. So then I don't know if they got enough food and they were able to turn into a butterfly. But we do have a lot of monarchs in our yard, and they continue to grow. And so we do, I mean, we plant gardens that are pollinator friendly.
Right. Nice topic. If our whole topic was just butterflies and gardening.
That would be fun.
Yeah, right? Yeah, so personally for me, I feel like in your life, you go through stages where you're heavily involved in your community and then not so much. And then heavily, and sometimes that's just the season of life you're in, or also, it's because you got busy, right? And it just went to the back burner. So right now I do a lot of work with a women's and children's homeless shelter in downtown Baltimore. And that has really been a great thing for me. I started out with just volunteering once every few months at their kitchen part. So just serving breakfast. And I did that with my sister, one of my sisters, and my niece. And, it's always nice when you're doing it with family and friends, right? Makes it more fun. But
Right.
then I got into co-leading monthly their Bible study. And so I feel like that brought up, on more of a personal level, that brought up so many feelings of, am I an imposter, right? Like, really, should I be the one teaching or trying to co-lead a Bible study? Like, who am I? But I've started to work through that, and really it's just about listening to these women and their stories. And I think every time that I go, I end up texting you, Julie, and just being like, oh my gosh, like that was amazing, but it is
Right.
very heavy.
It is very heavy, yes.
So that is something that I'm pretty heavily involved in now. And then also, I do a good amount of volunteering through my kids' schools as well, trying to be an involved parent. And that's been great too. So I think, you know, there's ways to get involved that not necessarily is a huge dedication of time. There's small ways that you can get involved in your community everywhere, I think.
Percent. I mean, and let's also talk about like our businesses, right?
Mhm.
Our, entrepreneurs and small business owners, even if you're like a manager or, anything that you do. I mean, you could be, selling pampered chefs. You could be doing, you're a dog walker, one of our favorite dog walkers that, I think in our lives and in our businesses, we get too isolated. And personally, I think that's a big issue in our world is that
Yeah.
people are too isolated and too stuck in their own four walls, whatever they may be, that they don't see the importance of other people, the things that are going on with other people, that you don't learn how to acknowledge when there's potentially problems with other people, when other people, might be feeling a certain way that, you could help them. And then in our businesses, it's easy to get sucked into what you're doing, your day to day. There's a difference between visibility and real visibility. One visibility gets you seen. That's your online visibility, your marketing, but in-person connections get you remembered.
Yeah. I
And
definitely
those are the things that will make a difference in not just your business, but in your life, yourself.
Yeah, I always feel like volunteering or getting involved is one of those things where when it comes down to it, it actually is a little bit selfish, right? Because it does make you feel good. And I think
Right.
that's okay, right? But when you're talking about not feeling connected to people and possibly feeling lonely, whether it's in your business or in your life, I have a fun statistic for you, Julie. So, this comes from the U.S. Surgeon General, the 2023 Advisory on Loneliness. Who knew there was such a thing? But there is. And it says loneliness has the same health impact as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Amen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big deal, but that's crazy. Who knew that loneliness could take you out just like smoking a pack? My gosh.
It's like the tanning bed. And it's like smoking probably 15 cigarettes a day. There is a statistic about, and I thought it was like smoking a pack a day. Let's be realistic here. And this is something that I'm passionate about. And MaryAnn and I have talked about this before, on ways to evolve our business into, helping people because, leadership can be lonely. Owning a business can feel isolating. And, a lot of times, like it's not uncommon for people to be with people, be surrounded by people, be working with people, and still feeling lonely because, we're not making that real connection. And that at the end of the day is what it's about, so when I hear people, like not necessarily people I know, sometimes people I know, but I see so much about it out in the world of people feeling not connected. I worry about, our children growing up connected to technology and not connected to other humans,
Yeah.
that I feel, when I see about, kids committing suicide in high school, it makes me just physically ill and think, how can we as a society, help each other, care more about others, see people that, when you're actually talking to people, when you're, walking through life, really being present and see people and validating that person that might need it and we don't even know it. I feel like this is something that, you say so well, MaryAnn.
Yeah, people don't support businesses. They support people they recognize. So we talked a lot about visibility earlier, but this is having real authentic visibility. I would like to talk about some ways for our business owners. So now shifting a little bit back to business owners, that they can get involved in their community, right?
Yeah.
So what are some things in the past, Julie, that you've been a part of when you've worked with businesses that maybe they don't think about?
I think,
Because sometimes they think, oh, getting involved in the community is too much of a big lift, right? They're stuck in their building, right? They're stuck in their
Mhm.
day to day, and they can't possibly add one more thing.
Yeah,
So
I
what's
think
something?
there's lots of different ways that people could do it. I mean, one is like showing up somewhere where you normally wouldn't show up, maybe like a chamber event or, a pop-up market or, even like one time a day spa that I was working with out, where was that? Hilton Head, South Carolina. They showed up at the farmer's market and they used Alika organic skincare so it fit into the farmer's market theme.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all their products. We put like out in beautiful bowls and, it was
Yeah.
like farm to table skincare. And, it was just a different way for people to like look at them, right? Like, oh, well, that's interesting. Like, that's cool. Maybe a wellness event, even like random community classes. But remember to go as a person, not as a sales pitch for your business,
Yeah.
right? Because it's about connecting with others. The businesses that I see that do the best local business are the businesses, and it doesn't matter if it's a florist, a spa, a dog walker, they're the businesses that connect the most in their community because I firmly believe that our like number one driver of business is still word of mouth, because if MaryAnn tells me about something, I trust her. So I'm going to believe her over, a Facebook ad 9 times out of 10, right?
Absolutely.
I think collaborating with local businesses, right? We've done stuff with coffee shops, fitness studios, boutiques, florists, car dealerships. It's a way to like for you to borrow each other's audience in a way that feels more natural and not salesy. And,
Yeah.
be a regular, like be
Mhm.
a regular at your coffee shop where you connect with people, be a regular at a book group, be a regular at a mom's group. I mean, MaryAnn, you do a lot of mom group things.
Mhm.
If you were a business owner, right, and you were looking for new clients for your dog walking business, this is a way that, now you've connected, with, potentially 20 more moms that, might be looking for a particular service, or you can make a recommendation to a favorite skincare product or a favorite spa, and they're going to trust you.
Absolutely. I want to express though, because I've got a funny story about this, and I don't even think you know this story, Julie. But I want to make sure you're doing things authentically. Just like you said, like don't come at it with the sale as a sales pitch, but also there is no harm in using the resources that you have, right? If you're going out there and networking, there's no harm in telling people that when they ask for something, you actually can make a connection. I don't think that's bad at all. Now, I
Mm-mm.
will tell you that one time, this was before I had kids, George and I were recently married. And it was when I think like Meetup was like a big thing. And we were living downtown in the city, and we were like looking for more young couple friends, right? You have all this frivolous time to do whatever you want, right? At
That
that
was
point in
probably
life.
you more than George.
No, well, yes, because George has an easier time making friends. He can make friends with anyone. And so we found this, so it was like a meetup, right? And we're like, okay, we're going to meet like at the Guinness Brewery, right? Which is a fabulous place. And we thought like, oh, they're like young. They didn't have any kids yet. We're kind of all on the same wavelength. They seem like we had some things in common. So we're like, this is great. Like, let's go out on this double date.
Were they
So,
swingers?
what?
Were they swingers?
No, so they were not swingers, right? So that was good, right? Because we weren't trying to swing. So we go to the brewery, right? And we're having a good time. And then all of a sudden the conversation takes a turn to talk about like finances. And they were like, yeah, like we're really setting ourselves up to live debt free. Like we want to retire really early. So if we have kids, we can be there for them. And George and I are like, okay, that's great. Like, you do you, boo.
Right.
And then they go into explaining their debt-free model. And no joke, they were trying to sell some pyramid scheme,
Oh,
like financial thing. And I think it was honestly connected to Dave Ramsey, because I remember hearing some of those like words that he would always use like on his
yeah.
podcast. And they were verbatim saying those exact same things.
Oh, I mean, we like Dave Ramsey, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, to each their own, I guess. But it was so weird because they didn't authentically come to make friends. They authentically came to try to fish us into their MLM, finance coaching. And so we ended up they tried to get together like one more time, and we ended up just like ignoring them because they were like, yeah, if you guys want to like come and sit down, we can talk more about, what's helped us build our debt-free life. And George and I, we were both like, that's not what we came here for, right? We
Right.
didn't come to get financial advice. We came to make friends. So that just reminds me of like George and I were literally catfished.
Yeah, right. And so don't do that.
Yeah. So just as we're saying, this is an example of coming to things authentically, right? Don't go with the thought of you're going to be able to hawk your business. Now, if you're going to like a chamber event or something,
Right.
that makes more sense. That's
Right.
the whole name of the game. But don't go and start adding all these friend groups and that's your only reason.
Right. Yes. Right.
That was such a wild
If
story.
that's something that you do, right? You're an MLM marketer. I mean, don't lead with that, right? Make an authentic connection. And if you feel like it might fit the person and there's a natural segue, cool. But yeah, no one wants to feel like, they were catfished.
Yeah,
No, that's
it was such a
terrible.
bummer.
What a bunch of creepos.
I know they were. It was such a bummer, but on an example of what businesses can do to get involved in your community that might be a little bit different is I worked for a business, a few years ago, and its whole concept really was beauty, right? More than wellness. It was more like beauty, makeup, that type of thing. Glam, right? If you want to say that. And we had someone come in, and I was working the desk that day, and they were looking for volunteers. They knew that we were big into makeup. They were looking for some volunteer makeup artists to help with their teens with special needs prom event.
That's great.
I loved it. I love the thought of it. And I thought that was kind of different. It stayed in our lane, right? So it really would kind of spotlight the services that we
Right.
offer and also obviously boost visibility. And it's something that the team enjoyed to do.
Right.
Unfortunately, we didn't end up doing it. That wasn't my call. But it's something that I remember that I really wish we had done.
Right.
I
Right.
really wished, because I felt like that would have been a really amazing opportunity for everyone involved. So I thought that was a neat thing to think about, maybe getting involved in your community.
Right.
And then
And thinking outside the box a little bit.
yeah, exactly. And the other thing I like is a business around where I live now. They just decided they were going to sponsor a little league team. And I thought that was really cute, and what an old school idea.
Yeah,
And
we have a couple spas that sponsor little league teams. They have their shirts on their
yeah,
names on the shirts, and yeah.
idea. And this particular business is a play cafe, one that I really like and love. And so I felt like it was perfect, right? What a perfect coordination in like the age groups and their audience.
Right, right.
That's a neat thing too. Sometimes you don't think about sponsoring a team because it's a little old school, but I love it.
Yeah, I love it. For sure. So I mean, here's what we should remember. I want us to remember, that businesses don't grow in isolation, and honestly, neither do we. Visibility is not just online, it's relational. Community builds trust faster than marketing ever will for our businesses. But this isn't just about growing our business. It's about taking care of yourself, which is a big theme that we always have here on the podcast, and how it helps to take care of yourself. It's about taking care of other people, and it's about being part of something bigger than our own to-do lists, right? Where we get stuck oftentimes, because at the end of the day, people don't support businesses, they support the people that they trust, that they recognize, that make them feel a certain way. So we have to, and we talk about this all the time as businesses, make that connection. So as humans and businesses, it's important for us to make a connection. So maybe the strategy for us this month isn't um more content and more strategy and more to-do lists, making another plan, going out, making some ideas on how you can connect with others, connect with other businesses, and being part of something.
Yes.
The end.
I I love it. I love this topic so much, Julie. I feel like I could ramble on about ways you can partner with your community, especially as a business. I think it's such a missed opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
not only to feed your soul, but to add some life into your team, get your team out of those four walls as well. I think we always say one of the things that business owners don't do is they don't locally collab. Um,
Right.
Usually due to the fact that they think the people are competition,
Right.
or it doesn't fit, or there's not enough business to go around. Most of the time there's enough business to go around. So
Yes. Yes.
I definitely think, whether it's for you personally or for your business, think of just maybe 2, 3 things this month that you can do to help out your community. I think it's really powerful. And I think, if anything, it'll be like an avalanche effect, snowball effect, and, something else might come about from it.
Right, exactly. And I think, I think about the businesses, and, it's coming to my mind, some of the spas that we worked with that, are really good. They live in a, could be small to medium sized community, depending on what you consider small. I mean, not as small as I live in.
Right.
But a medium-sized community, it could be, a community of 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people, not a major city. And, a secret sauce to their success that we started long ago that has continued is their involvement in their community.
Hmm.
And, these are small businesses that are making really big impacts, in their community, in people's lives. And at the end of the day, right, why did we start our business? And, financial security for themselves and their family, because, they really don't have to market, because word of mouth marketing and that trust factor does the job for them.
Just don't be a catfish.
Don't
If
be
you're
a
going
catfish.
into a group, don't sell your financial Dave Ramsey MLM course to people, okay? All they wanted to do was make friends, and now you've made us feel bad and question our finances. So thank you. All right, well, next week, we're going to come to you with some more trends, diving deeper into some things that we've talked about, and also some things that we are currently trying. I'm starting acupuncture, so I'm excited. We can talk all
Right.
about that. And we're going to come with some new trends, and let's see what's teeing up for summer. So, share us with your friends. Take a look in our show notes. We have all of the links to our course and our community on Facebook as well. And we will see you next week.
We'll look forward to seeing you here next week live in the SpaHive. Bye, MaryAnn.
Bye, Julie. Bye, listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us today in the SpaHive.
If this episode sparked an idea, made you think differently, or just made you feel a little less alone in business or life, share it with someone who might need it too.
Don't forget to follow the podcast so you never miss a conversation.
And check out the show notes for links, resources, and ways to stay connected with us, including the Spa 101 course taught by our very own Julie Pinky.
We're so grateful you're part of this community.
And we'll see you next time.